And you're live.
Okay, welcome out, Rolling Out audience. This is Rolling Out News coming to you live from Minneapolis, the capital, unofficial capital of the upper Midwest, where there have been 3 days of tumultuous activities in regards to the death of George Floyd. And there have been protests that has basically mushroomed across the tree. So we have been covering it for the last couple of days in regards to a lot of development that has been going on Thursday and Friday. Right now, people are protesting across the country in Washington, D.C., in Denver, in New Jersey. And we're just trying to get a hold on what's been going on in the past week or the past couple of weeks in regards to what's going on in Central Park in New York, in Brunswick, Georgia, and as well as Louisville, Kentucky. But the latest tumult emanated from the seemingly purposeful death of George Floyd at the hands of a police officer who had his knee in his neck. He took a knee, but he didn't take a knee for justice or anything that symbolizes equality. He seemingly took a knee to take out the life of George Floyd in Minneapolis, and that is where we stand today. And so we have with us people who are on the front lines and people who are actually in Minneapolis and others. So we wanted to welcome some of our guests. Number one, Mr. Tyrone Terrell. Did I pronounce that correctly, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, good evening and welcome to Rolling Out News. Thank you very much for joining us. And why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience, the folks online, about what is going yourself and about what's going on in Minneapolis today.
Well, again, my name is Tyrone Terrell. I am the president of the African American Leadership Council in St. Paul and former human rights director for the city of St. Paul for about 14 years. And this week has been, as you know, a very difficult week for our city. But we started out Monday morning with a great meeting with the mayor, our chief, and had about 20 people from the community there. And after about 2 hours, got our demands met in terms of terminating the officers. The mayor stood up, our chief stood up, and our community stood up for Mr. George. I mean, a man that we don't call it death in Minneapolis, we call it murder. That he was murdered in Minneapolis.
Okay.
Just
a moment. We want you to continue, but now we have our publisher rolling out, Mr. Muscle Steve.
Hey, gentlemen, how are you?
Good, brother. How you doing?
Come on, man.
Hey,
we're all here, brothers, clearly upset about this situation that has continued to afflict our people.
And so we want to move on. We want to move on and to introduce our other guest, Mr. Gary Hines. I want you to introduce yourself to our audience this evening and talk about how you've come to this particular place and time, sir.
Thank you, my brother. Gary Hines, blessed to be music director of Sounds of Blackness, of course, based here in the Twin Cities. And yeah, it's been devastating. There's a few that really stand out just quickly. One, the fact that this has gone on for centuries, but as Will Smith said recently, racism is not increasing, it's just being filmed. So this has gone on in one way or another for over 4 centuries now. And sometimes having it on film isn't even enough. That's what the other thing that struck me, and I'll wrap up the answer to your question quickly, is so the international scope of this. Sounds of Blackness, we're blessed to have fan clubs in Europe, Africa, South America, Asia, Australia, and we have heard from all of them. Our anger and outrage is shared by people all over the planet.
Yeah, it seems obvious for a group that has created optimistic and given the world so much love to be in a city that has so much hate for the lives of our community.
Well, sometimes, we talk about Minnesota nice. I'm a native New Yorker, and I say that to say when we came here, our family's from Yonkers, New York, shout out to Yonkers, 50 years ago. We heard about Minnesota nice and how everything was, but, we quickly learned that the only difference between Minnesota and Mississippi was the snow. and that Minneapolis at one time was the anti-Semitic capital of the planet. So really, the Minnesota Nice thing has really been a facade. And in talking to my brother Spike Moss, who I've known since we've been here, he warned us when we first moved here about Minneapolis PD and how they would take you down, to the Riverside and put what they call their nigger knockers on you. That was the name for the Billy Club. Pardon the language, but that's what they called it, just keeping it real. And so this is not new. It's just not.
And Mr. Tyrell Terrell, I wanted to get back to you in regards to, allowing you to complete your introduction and also to talk about the latest developments in terms of one of the officers has been apprehended by the police in Minnesota. And I'm looking at CNN now, and it says that the other officers, there's expected to be charges with the other officers in the coming days. So is this what you're looking for? Is this enough to kind of quell the uprising and the tumult that has exploded and germinated in Minneapolis? What is your feelings and thoughts right now?
Well, it's step number 2 in the process. We wanted them arrested. We want them charged. We want them put in jail, go before a judge. If they make bail, they make bail. But the most important thing is getting a conviction. We went through this with Philando Castile. When I went through the whole process, only to have a jury let the officer go. And so this thing is a marathon. All the thousands of people that you see right now will disappear in a few days, but the rest of us will be boots on the ground to finish this race because we need a conviction. Getting him arrested, getting him charged is one thing, but to go through the whole legal process, and particularly in Minnesota, which is the only state worse for blacks in Minnesota is Mississippi. And so we are clear about this big plantation that we own. It's real clear in terms of what we have to do with Mike Freeman, our county attorney. I have more faith in our U.S. attorney, Erica McDonald, that if we get the right information from the investigation from the FBI, but we've got 40 years of getting little from the FBI in Minneapolis and St. Paul. So are we happy today with the officer being arrested? Yes. He committed murder. When you commit murder, you're supposed to be arrested. Should have been arrested that night. And so do I think it's going to have an impact on what's going on outside? No, because again, we've been there so many times. And Gary said something very important. If it wasn't for cell phones and people recording what's going on, we'd have no chance.
Right.
No chance at all. So people have asked me a couple of times, do I think the cell phones hinder what's going on? I said, oh my God, no. Without them, we'd have nothing right now. Without those cell phones. But most people don't always believe in the body camera. But most people say, well, can they with that? Can they alter that? But when it's on that cell phone, it's original, can't be touched. And so we applaud all the young people and others who have the courage to stand here and record that. Because it's not easy to do when you got an officer with a gun standing there telling you, looking at you, staring at you. But getting people to understand and Gary touched on it, the historical impact of this thing. This man repeated Eric Garner from 5 years ago, I can't breathe. And the officer still was so inhumane that I often talk about President Obama's 6 pillars for community policing, but he left off the most important one, which number 1 should have been, treat us the same way you treat white people. We are human just like them. Give us the same stock you give them. Grin at us, talk to us, give us your card. We get racism, they get protect and serve.
Right.
Mr. Steve?
No, Gary, I just want us to talk about how we can heal and how music can help us heal, giving these weary souls in Minneapolis and around the world, because everyone has seen this brutal murder.
Yes, sir. Well, I got a little different answer for that than you might expect. Sounds of Blackness, among other things, of course, as your question infers, known for messages of motivation, pardon me, and inspiration. And that's at the heart of what we're about. But feeling how palpable the anger, the rage is in the streets right now, and talking to the folks, I've been out there all 4 nights or so, whatever kind of thing is. I know Tyrone knows. And talking to people, young, old, black, white, Asian, Latino, men, women, you name it, very multicultural. Here's what I've found in terms of music piece. And I've already seen some artists putting some everything's going to be all right kind of songs out, and let's all come together kind of song. You know what? They ain't hearing that.
That's
right
right.
Now, Paul Robeson once said, all true artists have a responsibility to their people. And so there's a great word from the German language called Zeitgeist. In other words, the mood of the times, the spirit and the mood of the times right now is not for everything's going to be all right. Come together, be optimistic. And yeah, that's coming from Mr. Sounds of Blackness. I'm just keeping it 100. I'm working on a song right now that will reflect, and here's what people will hear, songs that reflect their anger and their rage and a call to action. So I'm working on a song right now based on the words of the late, great Fannie Lou Hamer, who, as we all know, said, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. So we're working on a song called Sick and Tired of Being Sick and Tired, that people will hear that because that's the sentiment, not a pie in the sky.
Yes.
Well, I didn't have any expectations, and I need the real. I don't expect the brother to give us anything but the real. That's why we coming to you. You know, I need to let you say it. I don't need to assume it. Nobody's happy. I mean, we didn't just, oh, they got him, let's go away. And we don't want to leave these streets. We don't want our community to think that it's okay. And they need to hear the truth right now, because they're not going to get it from anybody but people like yourself who are vested and want to be able to run this marathon more than once, because y'all been running it for a while. This ain't like the first marathon.
Unfortunately, brother, you're right. It's not the first one. And as Gary knows, we've had many over the years, going all the way back to Tysell Nelson, South of Rennes. So it's been going on for a long time.
Long time.
In Minneapolis, that the community's tired, and people, you don't blame the people that are doing the rioting, the looting, don't blame them. Because
but there appears to be, as somebody who actually comes to MSP, a real conflict in the disparity of income. If you're inside corporate America, you're a lot quieter African American than if you're in North Minneapolis or South Minneapolis and you're really working to survive. There seems to be this huge quietness, and it's odd. Like you get there and it's like you go in a room and there might be one brother, and that brother's happy to be there. That sister's happy to be the one. And yet you're like, are you happy being the one? Or the three?
Well, I mean, it's and you talk about the income gap, it is significant. White folks making $67,000 a year, blacks 27. It was 31, and we lost $4,000. And so, who can take care of a family of 4 on $27,000? And so, the impact of the poverty is important, but the greater impact, I tell people all the time, when you mix poverty with no spirituality, no religion, no culture, and even the music part, because music has been a part of us. We bought the drum from Africa to here. So music has been a part of us, whether it's gospel, jazz, whatever. But when you're in so much pain, I had some young brothers tell me, said, brother, we love you. Go do TV, go do radio. We're going to tear this up. And so what Gary's talking about, this is a new pain. This is brand new. You're not going to tell them, sit down, be quiet. It's going to be okay tomorrow. They're saying, we're doing this. Y'all sit back. Y'all sit back. Y'all going to meet with the mayor. You meet with the chief. We going to do this all night long, every day, till we get to it.
And Mr. Hines, Mr. Hines, I wanted to follow up with what you said. I wanted to piggyback on that because it was a young teenager, a young black woman who suffers from social anxiety, who's the one who filmed the death of George Floyd. and she was been sent to the market to get something for her mother, and she just
Right.
happened upon that scene. And despite her social anxiety, she braved it out to take that that video that we've seen around the world. So
Yeah.
you know, so we got to give her a shout out and call her a heroine for, you know, basically turning back her fears of social interactions and going ahead and filming that and then getting that online for the world to see. So yeah, shout out to Darnella Frazier for her bravery in that moment, and that speaks to your point about the you know, modern technology helping to be the great equalizer and helping to expose, because we didn't have to wait on no body camera for 3 or 4 weeks for them to edit it and then give it back to us, you know, regurgitate it back to us in an edited form. It was social media that also may have saved the life of Mr. Cooper in New York Central Park, because she called the police on him, wishing ill will on him, and he was able to film and have proof of what he said, and then leave before the police got there with guns drawn, probably. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out about that. But back to your point about what's going on and about how music helps to massage the soul. What you was talking about the protest music? Do you have a favorite that you have present or in the past about, you know, protest or music that just galvanizes the masses and put boots on the ground?
I'd say, yes, I do, my brother, especially specifically for this scenario and circumstance, and to Brother George, you know, especially with that fool in the White House talking about thugs. Sounds of Blackness have a song that's called Royalty that says, "We got a message from above. You ain't no thug, you're royalty." And so we're letting especially our youth know they are not the descendants of enslaved Africans. They are the descendants of kings and queens that came from royal African kingdoms. I've been there face to face with them upon telling them that, and some of them hearing for the first time, their whole countenance, their whole posture changes just upon hearing that. I was at a school not long ago and dealing with the royalty subject, and this one young sister said, "Mr. Hines, I thought you had to have blonde hair and blue eyes to be royalty." And I said, no, my sister. Let me tell you about your heritage, kind of thing.
Wow.
So, yeah. So definitely the song Royalty for that matter. And then more specific to Brother George, and a song that we had written, my God, going all the way back to Jamar Clark. And then we sang it on at Philando's funeral, Black Lives Matter. And it starts out saying, "We have always mattered throughout history." Okay. Royal African kingdoms before slavery. I hate when even the African American Museum in DC halfway starts with our history from the transatlantic slave trade. It's like, no, they should have had a whole floor of the museum dedicated to the great African kings and queens, Mansa Musa and Nzinga, Sundiata Keita, Mali Songhai. So I know I'm getting a little off the track, but I'm saying those two songs for right now situation, Black Lives Matter and Royalty, are the ones nearest and dearest to my heart.
No, I'm about to pass out the offering plate because you preaching right now. I mean, seriously. So, you know what I'm saying? I wrote this down. I'm going to listen to them, you know what I'm saying? Because I haven't heard of Black Lives Matter, but I remember Royalty. So I'm definitely going to get on this, you know, as soon as this is over. But yes,
I will send it to you, brother. Okay,
that's what's up. Now that's what's up.
You gonna send it to all of us?
Yes, even to you, Tyrone. y'all don't get it twisted. Tyrone and I have done this for years. Sometimes we do it so well that people think we're serious. They really don't love each other. It's like, no, that's my brother. I love him. I die for him. So just don't get it twisted.
Oh yeah, we are true brothers for real.
Yeah,
I'm a little slow, but I noticed, you know, I'm a little slow. I sat in the back of the class, Mr. Terrell, but I noticed something on that hat. I mean, you know, just these numbers. What's going on there? You know what I'm saying? Help me out.
This is my Scare the White People hat.
Yeah.
So what it does, they always come up to me and they go, "Excuse me, sir, what does 1619 mean?" I said, "I am so glad you asked."
Yeah.
I am so glad. Yeah. Because on August 15, 1619, is when we start recording about people from Africa in our community. And so it's on you as white people. That's what this is about. 1619.
Yeah. Okay. Oh,
So August 15th, 16,
Yep.
19.
Just last year, we not celebrated, we commemorated the quadcentennial of the transatlantic slave trade.
mm. Now
Yes.
Priceless and precious, important and essential, irreplaceable and extraordinary. Black Lives Matter.
Sing it loud.
Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
Sing it proud.
Black Lives Matter. 'Cause all lives matter.
All lives matter.
Hands up, don't shoot. I can't breathe.
can't breathe.
No justice, no peace. Hand in hand together we stand.
And stand.
Black Lives Matter.
We have always mattered throughout history.
We matter.
Glorious African kingdoms before slavery. 300 years like feast of bird, a nation built on our back.
We matter.
Many believe we were animals because our skin is black. Even the Constitution said we're only 3/5 human.
We
And
matter.
that mentality is still a reality. Police brutality, harassment and discrimination, poverty, injustice, pain, and only 3/5 human.
We
And
matter.
that mentality is still a reality.
All right.
Yeah, now that's powerful right there.
Mhm.
Bless you, brother.
No, you blessing us, brother. I sense the urgency. I think the young people kind of said, you know, we stepping out. They're not going to wait. I think the urgency that it wasn't just Black urgency.
Right.
It was a movement that ignited all the young people. I was talking to my classmate, Lewis King, and his daughter's like, Daddy, we got to do something now.
Mhm.
We got to do something now.
Yes, sir.
Then a girlfriend came by his house. She said, we got to do something now. And I think the young people on our morning show, we got to do something now. What can we do now? Nobody wants to wait,
Right.
you know, and I hope that that is the feeling of urgency inside those corporations as well, because I don't want them to just think it's a policing issue. You know, you've got a whole economic disparity and poverty farms that appear to be there. And so what can we anticipate and do to make a difference in this marathon for justice?
Well, I think for me, everybody got to stay focused. Everybody got to stay committed to this. It's real easy to say, I'm done, I'm tired. Somebody stopped me and Brother Spike and asked if we're retired, and Spike said, "It's all we know how to do. This is all
Right.
we do."
Right.
No, we're not tired. I mean, this is what we do. But we have a responsibility to Brother George and his family, but to all those before Brother George and their families. Because if we don't, there will be another one.
Yes,
You
sir.
understand this, that there will be another one if
Right.
we don't do what's necessary. What the young people have done is showed what this racism, this discrimination and prejudice, they've shut Minneapolis and St. Paul down.
That's
Every
right.
Stores are boarded up in uptown, downtown, St. Paul, you name it. Nobody wants to go anywhere. The buses are done, trains are done. So the
Yes,
city's
sir.
at a standstill. And so that victory helps those of us who now do the stuff with the mayor and the government people to get this victory. But they played a crucial role in this.
Yeah.
There wouldn't be charges filed right now.
That's right.
I don't think there would be charges.
How do both of you, and you can take turns, Black Chief in Minneapolis makes a decisive decision. How does that play to the psyche as it relates to this current murder?
Well,
Yeah,
I think it's important from the point of they initially 2 years ago wanted to make him the interim chief. And we came out and said, no, Betsy Hodges, you are the mayor. You're not the interim mayor. Make him the chief. Don't let him be interim for 18 months. And then he has to go compete with a whole bunch of folks for the job.
right.
So Aaron Dondo, who born and raised in South Minneapolis, he grew up
Yes.
only a few blocks from where Mr. Floyd was murdered.
Yes.
Okay? And so for the first time, we had trust in a chief in Minneapolis that would do the right thing for the community. And in our meeting on Monday morning, I watched him cry. Real tears of passion, anger, and love for this family that one of his officers
Yes.
is putting him in this situation. Everybody talking about what the chief did. He didn't do anything. The coward who murdered Mr. Floyd did it. The chief only had to react to what he did. You don't deserve to wear a uniform that says protect and serve when you just murdered somebody.
That's right.
Yeah, as I look over, and as you guys have seen the many images coming across the screen, protests are breaking out all across the country. I know it's heartening a little bit to know that that this is a multiracial protest against the beating and the killing, the repeated killing and beating and oppression of African American men and women. Because we have to remind our audience that Sandra Bland was a woman in Texas.
Right.
Breonna Taylor was an African American woman. She's a sister in Louisville, Kentucky. So it's men and women who are suffering.
That's right.
So I know it's heartening to know that the nation is looking like it's taking up the fight to help, as a symbol, a monolithic symbol to push back at this oppressive tactic that the police are using to keep us in our place. So,
but we've also seen these plants where they have the individuals coming into city, knocking out the windows in AutoZone. What gives? This is the same tactics? Have you seen this before? White men knocking out windows and then putting up an umbrella and having goggles on. What is that about?
Well, I think it's about, and I tell people all the time, there's a lot of different people, white and others, participating in this. I treat it the same way they go see a concert, right? Prince, Michael Jackson, Sound of Blackness, they buy their ticket, they want to be entertained. But these same white people would turn around and vote again for 45. These same white people will be on a jury in 2-3 weeks, 2 months, and say, acquit this man. So I tell folks, don't get too comfortable.
Right.
You see a number of white folks coming to the entertainment. They standing around watching it, enjoying it. It's entertaining for them. So don't get caught up that this is a movement of all people. This is still Black people's fight. We have to carry the fight all the way. Anybody wants to come along with us, come. But don't get too comfortable with all these folks out here on the street because they are going to the concert. They're being entertained. And so the victory is still going to come from us. And that's why in every meeting that we have, we've got 7 or 8 Black preachers because that's where we come from. The civil rights movement didn't work until the preachers got involved. So it's got to be spiritually led. And that's going to be the victory.
Okay, so you bring up an excellent point, which segues into my next question in regards to, you were talking about getting on that jury. You can't get on a jury if you don't vote, if you're not, what I'm saying. So you have to, and then you have the police chief who was put in place by the mayor that was voted in. So it goes back to the point that this is a multi-pronged problem that needs to be solved on many levels. And one of them is voting and getting in there and registering to vote. Because without that, you can't sit on the jury to help convict people such as this. You can't get a mayor in the office who will elect a Black police chief. So talk to us about the necessary and the need to get involved on multiple levels. Either one of you could answer that.
Well, I think what you said is very important about voting, but in Philando Castile's case, there were 3 black people on that jury. 3. They were black in color.
Right.
But they wasn't black. They wasn't black. And so we need black people who care about black people, who love black people. My buddy Spike Moss says something all the time. Black people have to wake up in the morning and say, I like me, until you can say you love me. Because we hate ourselves so much that we can sit on a jury, 3 black people, and do nothing. Matter of fact, when I saw the jury, I said, oh, the little white man with the beard, they said he was the one in the room pushing the most for guilty, not the 3 black people.
Wow. Wow. That's
Wow.
deep. That is deep.
Yeah, it is.
So talk to us about, like you said, what do we have to do to maintain this fire? Because as you know, fire goes out once the oxygen, it is extinguished once the oxygen leaves. So it needs oxygen. So how do we maintain the oxygen? How do we continue to infuse energy and sparks into this movement that hopefully will sustain itself? We need that fire to stay. How do we keep it burning?
Well, you said something earlier about the little girl that took the video. I guarantee you her mom or daddy, whoever in her home, have talked to her, have given her that courage.
Yes.
So she just didn't step out by herself. She was strong enough from what she had from home. And what we've done as black people, we done stopped teaching our babies.
Right.
The first teacher is from the mama being pregnant to conception, to birth, to kindergarten, you are the teacher. We stopped doing that. I got people here that don't understand. I still say the worst court decision ever for us was Brown versus Board of Education. So we stopped educating our own black babies and turned them over to white people and said, we love you, we educate our children. So the black teacher, the black janitor, the black everything, they didn't take them, they only took the children.
Right.
So you wonder why we got little Europeans running around here.
Yes, sir.
We are way more European than we are African.
Wow.
And that segues into my next point, because I'm a voracious reader. I'm a bibliophile to my soul, and I see that you have something behind you. I can feast on your wall. So talk to us about some of the books that you have read, that you can, some of the best books that you have read in terms of, educating and edifying our minds, heart, and soul in order to take up our space on the front lines in the fight against injustice.
I have a group here that went to the Million Man March. Me and Brother Spike Moss took about 1,500 brothers from here to the Million Man March. We've come back since, and we still meet every Saturday at 12 o'clock, 12 to 2 every Saturday. But every brother 3 times a year must read Miseducation of the Negro by Dr. G. Woodson.
Yes.
Every black person needs to read that. Okay? We make them read Message to the Black Man.
Yes.
So you understand that. And then Powernomics. Understand the whole economic piece of this deal. Because, and you talked about politics. In that book, Dr. Woodson says the black politician in the 21st century can neither be Republican or Democrat. It must be about black people. So if you're a black politician, I don't care if you're the mayor of Atlanta, mayor of Minneapolis, mayor of St. Paul, mayor of New York City, if you ain't making it better for black people when you leave, something is wrong. I got called last week to be on an equity committee. I said, I don't do equity committees. And oh, sir, it's a big committee. I said, no, I want to be on the white boy committee. They get all the jobs, all the contracts, but they ain't on no committee.
Right.
They don't do no equity committees, diversity committees, inclusion. We went from being minority. A good friend of mine, Brother Milford, who Gary knows, said he went to the March on Washington in '63 saying Black Power. He said by the time all the speeches were done, including by Dr. King, he said, man, I came out there like a puppy, calling myself a minority. Now we people of color. First time I saw it, I said, prisoners of color. It can't be nothing about people of color. And so we have let them put us into these groups. And then some folks got mad. The Native Americans said, you can't put us in that group. We're not no minorities, it's our land. You can put the other three groups in and call them minorities. We're indigenous people in our land. So we're too locked in. They can call us anything they want and we accept it. Now we people of color, we minorities.
So what's lost? Because many people may not understand what you mean when you say that. They literally have no clue. They don't mind being with everybody else. They clearly want to be with everybody else. They will buy some skin lightener to be with everybody else.
Well, that goes
back again to us educating our children. We have lost interest in our children. And until we take time, if a kid can learn every dance move, every rap song, then they can also learn the books and all things culturally that's necessary about us. If we don't love ourselves,
yes.
If you hate yourself, you'll never do anything for your people.
That's right.
Well, we want to definitely thank you for giving the education. We want to welcome the young energy warriors, queens who are there on the front line. Welcome to Rolling Out News. Can you bring us up to speed? We're here with Tyrone and Gary Hill, Tyrone Terrell, but let the community know exactly who you are and what you're doing right now to make a difference in this movement.
Hello, everyone. I'm Nisha Gibson. I'm with Urban Solutions.
Hello, everyone. My name is Pastor Carmen Mings, local Southside pastor. I'm also executive director of Central Neighborhood in BNO, the area in which Brother Ford was murdered.
And my name is Shanae Herbert. I'm the Hidden Justice Program Director from AFSC, Undoing Institutional Racism.
How would you describe the energy of the young people and even yourselves, Tanisha and Reverend? Because it is obvious that we have made a difference somewhat as a community, but Tanisha and you and I have laughed a lot about the disparity that's so obvious between corporate Blacks and African-American Blacks. I mean, there doesn't seem to be the same unity. I'm not seeing the same people on the street, Brother Terrell. There seems to still be this disparity there. What can you say about that, and what can you tell us about the energy of the young people there in MSP right now?
So I can speak to that. I think the energy is a couple things, twofold. I think that young people, we haven't been engaging them as we should. You all know that we have been on shelter in place as a response to COVID-19. And so the youth workers and the teachers and the educators that are the first point of contact when young people are struggling mentally, spiritually, are the educators. And so the educators haven't been in contact with them as a result of COVID. And so they've been very disconnected, but also they feel that stress of COVID. Maybe their parents have lost their jobs. Maybe they don't have money themselves. They're bored. Maybe school is stressing them out. So on top of what is going on currently, we have multiple pandemics that are happening with young people. On top of them seeing their brothers and sisters and even themselves harassed by the police and or killed, right? And so there's a pent up energy that has built in them throughout these years of seeing this constantly over and over and over again. And they don't have that same idea in ways to self-soothe themselves. And so their immediate reaction is anger, it is destruction, it is how do we tear this stuff up. It is an outward facing reaction to the anger, to the sadness, to the depression that they have been feeling for a long time. And they are not calling on their ancestors as our ancestors did when they organized during the civil rights movement. They're not calling on the technique of Mahatma Gandhi or MLK. Some of them haven't even been educated on those practices. and they don't respect that because they feel like that didn't work, right? The civil rights leaders didn't pass the torch to them, nor did it work, because if it did, they wouldn't be in this position that they're in today. So they're like, we're not going to buy into this system. We're just going to shut it down. And so I think that they feel that, and that's evident in the destruction that you see.
And when you talk about energy, we really have to talk about the history of what has been done to the people in the state of Minnesota. This is not a new issue. This is not a new problem. This is something that has been going on. Families have been divided due to the targeting of Black people. Communities have been disrupted due to the targeting of Black people. So we have to start with, how did we get here? It's been a historical problem.
We'd like to welcome Jamaica. Go ahead, Terry.
No. That's what I was going to do. I was going to do the same thing that you're doing now.
Go ahead,
so,
brother.
No, I just wanted to introduce Jamecia Bennett. I hope I said that right. Who was the daughter of Ann Nesby, who was the lead singer of the Sounds of Blackness. Welcome aboard. I think you need to take yourself off of mute.
So thank you. I was trying to do that. Thank you. Nice to be here.
Yes. And how are you doing today? And what is your mood right now? And what are you seeing up close and personal about what's going on, not only just in Minneapolis, but how it ties to what's going on in New York, Louisville, Georgia, just all over the country? What is your mood? What is your feeling right now?
Well, as being an artist, we are definitely at this time forced to use our platforms as much as possible, because we have our frontline runners that are out there, like Miss Carmen and of course Leslie, and we're so proud of you. Thank you guys so much. We love you guys so much for that. But as artists, we are definitely on our platforms using it, because music is second best teacher to our youth that are out there. So seeing everything that's going on right now, it is definitely heartfelt, because you are worried because you don't want anything to happen to our new millennials. But they are definitely our untrained army that we have out there, because they like, just piggybacking on what Miss Leslie said, they are not embraced. That there's not a lot of stuff out there for them to do. Especially coming out of this quarantine, there's a lot of mental illness coming out of this quarantine, because, there's times when I'm sitting feeling like I need some, mental care coming out of this, because this is something we've never done before. And once they had an opportunity to come out, especially with this happening, it's just abundance of rage, and abundance of, especially with this happening with a young Black brother, with a man looking you directly in your face and just killing somebody, and trying to show them two people in that video his power. Our millennials wanted to show their power and to show how much they were upset and what was going on. So it was definitely heartfelt for me, for sure. And I know a lot of artists. I've talked to Miss Marsha Ambrosia yesterday, and some members from Silk. All of those guys were calling and asking, what was going on here, because they wanted to be a part. And I was so glad to see that Jamie Foxx and all of those other guys coming, because it was great to see that other people cared about our city.
I see.
Right.
And I just wanted to, before I get to, back to our elder statesman, I just wanted to capitalize off of something that you guys said in regards to, it's almost like having a battered spouse syndrome, where the people are blaming and are questioning the man or the women, is also men too, for getting beat. And then what did you do wrong? How did you upset him? I mean, do you see this as a case that's been going on in Minnesota for a long time, where, like you said, the people is splitting up families, and the people who are being oppressed and beat down are the ones being questioned, like, what did you do to the police? What did you do wrong? Did you talk back? Why did you drive down the street? Were you going 5 miles over the speed limit? So talk to us. Anyone can answer this question in regards to the PSD, and also to the battered people syndrome that is going on, to where we're getting blamed for our own beatdowns.
And I would love the opportunity to speak to that. This is Pastor Carmen from Southside or what have you. What we see though, what's astonishing about this is that nothing's new. It's the same game. It's the same game. As a matter of fact, we can tell them what they're gonna say. Because the first thing that they do when a Black man dies or a Black woman dies, they demonize and criminalize. That's the first thing they do. They begin to discredit. They want to make it, and then they begin to all of a sudden become private investigators on what happened before. The last time that I checked, once the cuffs were on, the neck and what we witnessed as a nation, even though it was a new face, and I hate to say it, it became a bigger and broader concept because we all individually begin to see ourselves in those faces because the lines have been rehearsed so many times. It's like a bad song on constant replay. And so with that, what we now experiencing as a community and what we now see, and we're recognizing their game. The challenge, and go back with the question I was asked previous this, the challenge is we have the endurance and the patience. Our babies don't, and we raise them that way. We raise critical thinkers. We raise conscious kids. We raise kids. My babies are 19 and 13. I raise them not to disrespect ever, but you have a right for the voice, right? And once we see them utilize their voice, then we question. I can't tell you that if I was in that same place at 16 years old, what my 16-year-old self would do. And let me be very clear. A lot of this that we see is the respond to antagonistic behavior. I'm on the ground. White boys is starting this stuff. And once now we pick it up, and some of the stuff, and going grocery shopping, I get it. But nevertheless, the antagonist is in the audience. They're popping these things off, and they are once again raping us repeatedly off our pain and off our trauma. And we go back from the 90s. The first time I seen this in action was doing the Rodney King, watching that in LA in my home. We just moved here from Chicago, and watching this on repeat, we know it. We know it. And the difference between us and the young people, they're not going to continue to listen to this song.
Right.
Staying with it.
And I've been saying that for quite some time. Our America is not ready for our youth. They're not ready for us. But the new millennials, the youth in America today, they're not having it, and it's showing.
Yes. And so what I wanted to ask everyone on this panel, anyone can speak to this, is the fact that I noticed, because I'm like an aficionado of history. I love history. One of the things that I see then that I saw now was that they would kind of drive a wedge between Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Stokely Carmichael, who started to shout the Black Power. And then they would ask Martin Luther King Jr. one thing, he would say one thing, and Stokely Carmichael would say another thing, and then they start to use that to try to divide. And so I see that today. What can we do, even though the pandemic is having a deleterious effect on our psyche? What can we do while we're paused to find out ways in which our elder statesmen and our youth can link and work together? What commonalities can we use to help come together to create a powerful monolith moving forward, so that we can begin to build in defense and in advancement of ourselves? Anyone can answer that.
I think the first thing for me is to ignore the tactics of the media that you just alluded to. Hey, Misi.
Hey.
And what I'm talking about is this. Since you mentioned Martin and Malcolm, and I'll condense this as much as I can, my brother. Martin and Malcolm were a lot closer than history will give them, especially media gives them credit for.
Yes.
Media to make Martin a dreamer. Martin was about economic and human rights. They like to focus on I have a dream, but Martin's principal speech, he said, Black is beautiful. Martin riots, which I call rebellions and uprisings, and they expected him to say, love your neighbor and turn the other cheek. Martin said, here's what his direct quote about so-called riots. He said, a riot is the language of the unheard. And that's what he would say today. So that's what in answer to your question, my brother, which is similar to what you might think Malcolm would say, and that Malcolm would have said that type of thing about that. So don't buy into the media hype when they drive that wedge, is my answer to that, because they will always try to do that, divide and conquer. But we always have more in common as African people than we do differences.
And someone from We Can't Breathe, can you answer that as well? Anyone?
I can actually answer that. I think one strategy that we have to use as elders in the community that are seasoned in organizing is one, provide the strategy and be willing to share power, right? Because what I see a lot is organizers of the old time saying, hey, youngster, this is what you do. And if you don't do this, then I don't want no parts of it. So I think it's important that the organizers of the civil rights movement actually pass the torch. There are times where we need your wisdom, right? And there are times where young people have wisdom, right? And I think that it's important to acknowledge that they have wisdom and they have experience that is very different than organizing of the 60s and 70s. And we have to bank on that and together share the older generation sharing the strategies and being comfortable with passing the torch so that they can do it in their own way. Because our way may not work, right?
And be secure with what the work that our ancestors have done. I'm secure with those that were in before me. I understand that my voice is where it's at now because I'm standing on many shoulders. I'm very clear. I would not be able to stand in the midst of pandemics. We don't have the pleasure as Black folks to just be facing a pandemic. We got essence on the end of that word. So I'm very clear about that. One thing the Black church struggles with is tactics. The methodology will stay the same, but the tactics that's going to be used, iPhone is prophetic. You want to know how fast we have to move stuff? The iPhone. And it does not mean that we have to change the foundation. We don't take away from the root. Absolutely. We don't do that. This is a spiritual matter. And any good inheritance come from a father that has prepared the ones before them. We have to understand that. Those that went before, we honor that. We understand I'm in a good age right now, I'm 42. So I don't know whether that's considered middle age or not, but nevertheless, I know what honor looks like, but I know how to deal on both hands. And we are sitting in a place that it doesn't have to be an either or. We don't have to have that mentality. It can be an and, a both and type of thing. I think elders, my mother trusts me out here. She called me this morning, she said, baby, I'm flat foot. You got your ankle support on? I said, yeah, mom, I got my ankle support on. Did you eat something? Yeah, I ate. All right, baby, do a good job for me. You know why? She supports and she trusts what she put on the inside of me. We have to support that those that are not here were for the hour that God called them to be. Those that are here in this hour, they got work to do. Let's trust that work, continue the work, continue to teach and train, and let that thing work out. I promise you we're going to come out better.
And I would just like to say one very great example of these conversations is the work that we actually are doing. Yesterday was a great example of we were able to keep the peace for over 6 hours. We had youth kneeling and praying instead of rioting and keeping up that division within the unity of the space that we had yesterday in front of the 3rd precinct. It wasn't until we got home and discussed even this morning. We were in the middle of a war zone with thousands.
Fire behind us, stabbing on the
cars on fire, police with tear gas and what those guns. And we were there on the front lines. And we were able to manage, maintain, and keep the peace for 6 hours. But immediately after we left, it went down.
I think
Brother Terrell, how would you see or share with us how you see this change, obviously the evolution of our community at this moment?
So if I could go back to that, I think the power of yesterday lies in the fact that we provided the space for them to come as authentically as they can.
Yes.
Tell how they feel. And it's very rare that they get to tell adults how they feel, how they have been impacted. We usually tell the little kids, this is grown folks' business. Y'all go over there. We don't involve you in that, right? And so I think it's important. And somehow it hasn't always been like that. If you think of any movement, it started with young people.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Put them on the
We're going to let Brother Terrell give us a little insight on how he thinks this evolution can continue.
Well, I think that, and the sister said something about the torch. And I've had young people ask me that question, both Minneapolis and St. Paul. There is no torch to pass. I remember when Phyllis Wheatley, about 40 years ago, me and Spike Moss, the youngest two guys in the room, me and Spike stood up and they told us sit down.
Those were the
Yep.
And this was Harry Davis, Gleason Glover, Dr. Green, who was then superintendent of the schools, and Spike was the first time I ever saw Spike break a table. Spike hit the table and said, "Nobody tells us to sit down." And we left the room. What I tell people all the time, as long as you're doing something good for Black people, you don't need nobody's torch.
Okay.
If you're doing something to hurt Black people, then we need to take that from you. So you need nobody's wisdom. If you're doing something for people, I have a church in St. Paul, Mount Olivet, got 250 kids in there every Saturday. And then somebody said, well, Mount Olivet's not doing anything. They feeding 250 Black babies every Saturday.
Right.
That's 250 babies not in our street. Whatever you can do that's good for our people. I don't care if it's roller skating, I don't care if it's painting, I don't care if it's football, whatever. You don't need a torch. Matt Little, and I got a picture of him right here on my wall, who was our elder, who was our Martin Luther King. People would say to Matt Little, Matt, you weren't at the meeting last night. Matt said, was Tyrone there? Matt said, I don't have to go no more. I've raised up folks. So whatever your commitment is, how you want to do it. Gary does it through music.
Yeah.
Everybody got a different way to do it. It's always got to be about our people. What we do too often, what I talked about before you guys came on, is we did a thing in St. Paul with 100 young girls, 15 to 18, who had babies, right? None of them got prenatal care the whole time they were pregnant. Just went through 9 months of pregnancy, went to the hospital, had a baby. I had a girl this week tell me she's 21 with 5 babies, 5 different daddies from Houston, Texas. She's talking about why she can't get a man. So if somebody don't help her with her 5 babies, her 5-year-old daughter, I told her, will be pregnant in the next 10 years. If she don't stop that cycle. We have too many cycles.
Yes.
But be committed to our people. I don't care if it's just reading one Black child. If you do that, so everybody keeps saying, give me a torch. Ain't no torch. Gary and I grew up in the Human Rights Department with Bill Wilson. And we both called him Dad because for what he taught us. But Gary was doing the music thing. I went in a different direction.
I think the key here is principle. And I think what we're all seeing is everybody's committed to a principle of change.
Yes.
I think if nothing else at this moment, everyone of every age that is in the streets is committed to a principle of change. I think the idea of torches has gone out. The idea is, are you a principled Black person?
There you go.
Principally Black for the change of the plight of Black people. And for me, I'm all on, just so that you know, brothers and sisters, on the KPIs. How do we measure that? Are the corporations that open up next week in Minneapolis have the same number of Black people, then we know we lost. If the corporations had the same small budgets for Black people, we know we lost. If we don't have new jobs for our youth, we know we lost. So let's keep our principles about change. That's what we got to do. Because as often as I come visit y'all, the principles don't seem to be changing in the unity of the entire community or a central principle number about how many African Americans will be in any of those top 20 corporations, Fortune 500. Because when I come in and I'm literally there, I'm always surprised. Well, where's the African American decision maker? It says, come to make MSP the best. And I'm like, okay, I want to do business with you. And then I can't see myself. I know that's a loss, Brother Terrell.
Yes, sir.
I already know it's a loss. So I think we've got to measure our involvement and principle our involvement so that we can move in principle for the advancement of our community.
That's right.
I love I think the young people should be fearless when you're 17 and you can break your leg 15 times and grow a new one. So let them have it. I'm good with it. You know, you can take a hit across the head harder. That concrete don't feel as bad. You know, you just need one more scar in life. I got plenty. So I enjoy seeing the transition of those who feel like they want to stay up every night for 5 nights for the good of our community. Not for a new lamp or something you can pull out of Target, but truly for the advancement of our community. So, you know, for us, we want to thank everybody because we want to get back on this Monday. We know we asked you last minute. If you would all just kind of give us a synopsis of the courage and the principles that we can take through this weekend and what we can do. Anything else you want to add, Terry?
Misi?
No. I wanted the guests who took time out of their days to go ahead and have the platform, beginning with Jamesia and going around and giving them a quick word, just maybe, 1 or 2 minutes about, what you're feeling right now and how you're going to move forward from today.
Okay. I really liked everything that is that all of my sisters said, and especially Mr. Terrell. You know I love you.
Yeah, I love you too, sister.
Taking everything that they said, and somehow I know that music is definitely like I said, second best. It's the second language to our youth, and possibly maybe moving forward and possibly doing rallies more with music here in the Twin Cities. I know a lot of these young people, everybody want to be a rapper or a singer or an artist or something, or maybe possibly using that to do something, but at the same time having like a panel of these young ladies that are up, or some of these young men to come in, because to reach them, we got to teach them, and teach them, you got to reach them. So almost like a bait to bring them in, and possibly once we get them there and they, whatever performances or whatever, having somebody there to talk, and maybe doing that a couple times a month, but having it really set up the right way, using people, not just having just anybody platform this,
right?
Knowing that what our cause is and what we're doing, and what the reason why we're doing it. Maybe do something like that a couple of times a week to engage more in the youth in the community. I would be willing to do that.
Okay, that's what's up. Thank you very much for coming on. We Can't Breathe. Take a minute or so to close out.
Yes. Give me the question one more time. I'm spent, so help me out, bro.
Mr. Steed, can you repeat the question for them?
Now, we just want you to share the principles of change that you would like individuals to understand moving forward. It's really just all about motivation. I don't want people not to continue to feel the spirit in you so that they can move forward right now.
Right. The principles of change, I say that, number one, this thing, and I've been saying this for a while, this is the after party type of situation. And what I mean by that is this is not a sprint, it's a marathon. I cannot say that enough. I cannot say that enough. I think about the frustration because our people still think this thing is a sprint. So after the 30 days,
right,
and after the streets clear, and after the Facebook likes go down and everything begins to look like it's normalized, we need everybody still to be fighting. We need the fight. The rounds just changed. It's just been intensified. Your threat becomes more thicker because now you are more knowledgeable. You got a little bit more wisdom. You know how to swing. You know where it hurts. So how do we continue this swinging process? Some tangible things that we could do right now to piggyback of what my sister Jamesia said is to the resources coming into the community. We have yet to really talk about, even with the COVID-19, because of that, our Minneapolis parks are shut down. When Minneapolis parks are shut down, even with the parks, where our babies gonna go? Where they go? Yes. We gotta understand, poverty don't teach you nothing else. It teach you how to hustle. You can't be mad at the hustle when the hustle means that I gotta eat. Negroes gonna eat. Right. So in other words, out here, when we're out here, what does it look like this summer, future, past these days? We know how do we make it so that we have built things such as what the sister just offered up herself, so that we did in community, really this is a great opportunity for us to become the collective and to produce what we've been relying on the government to give us.
Yeah.
She just gave us a full-blown program that we could do in our churches. Your house shouldn't be opening up this first dog on Sunday and you ain't doing nothing for the community.
Right.
Closed in. I'm gonna be honest with you, because we know who God is. We learned that during this COVID. If you don't know, you know now within your own space, right? So what can we do in a community space, collective way, to be able to not buff it, but continue the work that will be able to strengthen the community while us on the front line is still fighting.
Thank you.
Mr. Terrell?
Oh, I was gonna go to my elder, Mr. Hines, first, but okay.
Okay.
All right, Brother Hines.
Oh, okay.
Well,
Thank you for that, my brother.
Wait on-
I'll be.
Thank you so much, Mr. Steve, for allowing us the opportunity to share our thoughts, to share the work that we're doing here. Please feel free to invite us again. We'd love to share with you our journey on how we're providing resources to the community. It's so great to see each and every one of you, but we are at a community facility and Minnesota shuts down at 8 p.m. So we got to get out of here, guys.
I'll reach out for you today.
Yes.
So much.
You're welcome. God bless.
Thank you.
Great work.
God bless.
Yeah, God bless.
Mr. Hines.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll make this real brief, just in 2 quick parts. To go back to the torch thing, I actually believe in the torch, but I'd say this: God gives each of us our torch, not to pass on, but to light the torch of the next. Okay, and I'm not trying to mix words here. So your torch is your torch. You can't pass it up, but what you can and should do is light the next person's torch, which means you share that when you pass it on to them. That's one thing. That's number 2. And Jamisa is so right when she talked about the music, especially for our youth. But I'll say this again, too, as I said toward the beginning, the music now, and having been out there all 4 nights, with these young warriors, they ain't trying to hear everything's going to be all right, pie in the sky, hold hands and walk. They need to hear music that reflects the anger of right now, and that's a call to action. So I tell you, I'm working on something, Fannie Lou Hamer's words, sick and tired of being sick and tired. Okay, so that's the spirit of what we're after now as artists, to capture the anger. Yes, don't be shy away from that, and don't go to everything's going to be all right, pie in the sky. Capture that anger, but with a call to action. It's still going to be positive, but it's got to capture that. So, and it's got to have the youth at the center.
That's right. And your words are timely as I look up and look at CNN and see Atlanta burning in protest, and see Atlanta on fire, and see the police crowding around downtown. You talk about the kids are not trying to hear it's going to be all right, pie in the sky, and in the by and by. So, Mr. Terrell, to close us out, why don't you go ahead and give us about the principles that Mr. Steve was talking about moving forward?
Well, I just think it's important that, and something that Brother Spike says often, if men and women will stand up, little boys and little girls will sit down. And what I mean by that is we have a responsibility as Black people to educate our children. If they can learn to dance and do all that, then we need to teach them. There used to be a time in the Black community, every house had a picture of Jesus Christ, Martin Luther King, and John F. Kennedy. Okay, every house, from New York to Chicago.
Yes, I remember those photos.
LA.
Yes, I remember that.
When you couldn't sit on your grandmother's stuff. So, but no, we stopped teaching our children, and that's why I said earlier, Brown Brothers Board of Education and the Civil Rights Act of 1964 took our community away because we were so into integration. Integration became our flag, and we need to burn it. We go back to buying Black stuff.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Teaching our kids to love. If you don't love yourself,
that's right.
And I'll close. I just told the Somali community leaders they got 20 more years, and their stuff is going to be gone here. So they drinking, they smoking, they leaving their women. The Hmong community, I tell them they got 25 more years.
Yeah.
We came here in 1525. It took them over 400 years to break us.
My God.
Over 400 years to break us. They getting broken 50. So if you don't educate the children, and teach them to be proud to be Black.
Right.
If you don't teach them how to, as Spike said, and I'll say it again, wake up in the morning and say, I like me, and you can say you love me. Because if you don't love yourself, you can't love Gary, you can't love Sister Bennett, you can't do it. So that's why we are quick to do anything else. So, and Sister that left the show, Pastor Carmen, I said earlier, what's going on right now ain't nothing but a concert. Once the conference over, everybody gonna go on home. There's gonna still be work that's gotta be done to get this conviction and get this murderer who he murdered somebody. Put in prison. So I can go visit him. I go to Stillwater, I can stop in and see him. See how the brothers are treating him. See how the brothers are treating him.
Excuse me, Brother T. Now you know both of our got connections, with some of the brothers, that's behind bars kind of
Right.
thing. And pardon me for interrupting you, but when you went there, the word is already out. They waiting on them.
Oh, I know.
They waiting on him.
What do you think about the other 3 officers, Brother Terrell? I mean, you've been here and you've experienced this. I mean, many people and some of the young people, that's part of their anger. They know that it wasn't a one-person deal. Obviously, there were others who were there.
Right.
I think many are asking that question now. Why are they at home?
In some way, it was a one-person deal. Mr. Floyd was already in the car, handcuffed in the back seat. And police officers are paramilitary. So whoever the top ranked sergeant, lieutenant on the scene, plus he was these other 3 officers, what they call FTO, field training officer. So they're gonna stand down on anything, no matter what he was doing, they weren't gonna say anything. That's police culture nationwide.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so the other 3 2-year officers, unless they got a real dirty jacket, they ain't gonna lose their job. This boy, I'm worried, the one that had the foot on the neck for over 8 minutes is who I want.
Yes.
The other 3, just based on civil service rules that I know well, based on the union, and most of us that are from Minnesota, Earl Gray's their attorney. So y'all know when you got Bulldog Earl,
Right.
it's gonna be a fight. But the man that put his knee on his neck and made him crawl for his mama. See, I ain't gonna never forget that.
Right.
Grown man,
then
40. Go ahead, sister.
I was gonna say, and then it's always here, Munson. If it wasn't for our millennials, he probably wouldn't be charged. Let's just put that on the table. Because they definitely rang through this city. And with the help of course, our activists and stuff, but the police officers had to have a sacrificial lamb. And he is the sacrificial lamb for all of them. I wouldn't even be surprised if they get, I think they may get a slap on the hand. What do you think, Mr. Terrell? They may get a slap.
They're gonna get 2 weeks suspension. 2 weeks suspension.
Yeah.
But
but the other guy is definitely going to be the sacrificial lamb.
Yeah.
So you think the union will bring them back since they've been fired?
The union when 45 came here sold T-shirts that raised $200,000 for their legal defense fund. So they got $200,000. You got to give Earl 100. Earl gonna get 100. Earl ain't coming out of the house without 100. So
now, who was Earl? Because
Earl Gray is just a formidable. I know I've had judges tell me they don't like when Earl walk in their courtroom. It's the judge. They don't like when Earl walk in. He's just a very good attorney, just point blank. But based on the civil service stuff, based on their jackets, 2-year officers, empty jacket, because what they're gonna say is that's their field training officer, that's their sergeant. They stand down. And so 9 times out of 10, they may get a suspension. Aaron Donald can say, well, you won't be on the street.
Yep.
You'll go get me donuts every day. You'll wash my car. You'll still be a police officer.
Mm-hmm.
You won't be on the street.
And it's funny because the Asian top, I had a huge confrontation with him downtown, and he is very racist. So when I saw his face, I knew exactly who he was. So when I put them 2 together, I said, "Oh, they're both dirty. He'll be next because he is out of control." The little short one, Asian one, he is very disrespectful to Black people. So he'll be next.
Well, his jacket's not empty.
Mm-hmm.
So he could get more than 2 weeks. His jacket is not empty.
Mm-hmm. So
yes, and to speak to your point, Jamesia, did I say that correctly?
Yes.
Yes, to speak to your point, Jamesia, about the millennials who basically pretty much made the district attorney and the FBI and all the agencies who are investigating to bring about charges much quicker than they ever would have under normal circumstances. And it was also a millennial
Yes.
Darnella Frazier. I got to give her shout outs again. The 17-year-old filmed it despite and fighting through her social anxiety to film it. So she was brave. So we definitely have to give shout outs to her as well. So, but yeah, you talk about what will happen to the police officers, the other ones on the scene, and moving forward. What is your reasonable expectation, Mr. Terrell, in regards to the relations from here forward? Do you think that this is the beginning signals a paradigm shift in the relations between police and African Americans, or do you think that after this and everything dies down, everybody goes back to the same old, that it will be same old in the streets?
If there's a conviction for this officer, it's going to wake them up. And I go back when me and Gary were at the Minnesota Department of Human Rights, and back in 1978, we had 40 charges a year or more from IBM. They got a new CEO. He put out a letter, one pager. Anybody that discriminates, that works for IBM, you will no longer have a job. And the cases went away because he sent a message. And so Chief Arendano is going to have to send a message to his officers. St. Paul police took that same video and now they made all their officers watch it. Then you better not do it in St. Paul. So Chief Arendano has a tough time because now they're going to come for him now. Be real clear that the city council and some of them and the union are going to come for the chief because what he did was monumental. He could have said, I'm going to wait for the investigation. He said, no, I'm terminating now, today, Monday. And so,
yeah, that was unprecedented. We talked to other people on our Rolling Out evening show, and they were talking about how shocked they were by that move. So this signals a new day, at least in terms of that particular dynamic.
We close because we've got 7 more minutes. The rebuilding, because now you have a city that has altered landmarks based on this uprising. How do you anticipate the rebuilding, and how will you be involved, both of you, in the rebuilding of the city, given that this uprising has created, historical landmarks of the change that's needed for Minneapolis?
To go back to what I said early on, I need to be in the white boy room because even though the city's been tore up, there's white boys already getting their contracts ready, going to rebuild. So we also create an economic boom for them if we don't get on the ground with the mayor, the council, and say, no, we want that work. We need to put our people to work because nobody's going to again sit around and watch all white boys work. So it's got to be an economic infusion into our community as well. It just can't be white folks going to work.
And it's another thing on Broadway, the whole Broadway being torn apart, they wanted that anyway.
Yeah.
They were gunning for that. So to have for that to happen for Broadway, they didn't already shout out messages that most of the buildings that were destroyed will not be rebuilt because they want to, years ago, I don't know, living here years and years and years ago, over north was the money area to live in. And they're trying to they want that again because they've built everything downtown with our new US Bank Stadium and everything. They kind of want over north to kind of coincide with that. And so that being burned down was really great for them. So like Terrell said, we have to get our people in there to be able to get some of that land back for us to have some of our Black owned businesses in there. And however we need to do that, that is going to be another fight for us to get some of that, because they're going to try to take that. Broadway is a great piece of land for economically, because they're going to, in my mind, I'm feeling like they want to make it like the whole Maple Grove area, how they rebuilt Maple Grove and all these new places. They're kind of making the same how they made them in LA, that whole LA look. we need to get our feet in there and that fight in there to get some Black-owned businesses prominent over there.
And support them once we have them.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Super. Well, we want to thank you both. Terry, you want to close this out?
Well, yes, I just want to, just to have people to maintain an even calm with me, because like you said, the playbook, we already know what the playbook, we've seen it over and over again. And just looking up and seeing how, I think the autopsy that they're saying that there was no asphyxiation, that he must have had underlying medical conditions. So here we go again.
Duh. You know,
Yeah.
they were going to say that.
Right. So since we know the playbook, and I said it yesterday to close out yesterday's show, since we see a pattern, a consistent pattern with all of these incidences with police around the country for the last 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, we need to study that playbook or have a cursory understanding of it so that we know how to move forward instead of falling for the okie doke every time. And so we need to, be better at working with each other, young and old, men and women, Christian and Muslim, and whatever, in terms of moving forward and finding our commonalities, because Malcolm X said it best. They don't care if you're a Muslim or a Christian, they beating you down. Bro. They don't care if you're rich or poor, they beating you down. They don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican, they beating you down. Mm-hmm. And what do they call a Black man with a PhD?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the N-words, they don't care. So I think that based upon what we have in common is that we're Black, and that's why we're being beat down. And because of that, we need to use that as a unifying factor moving forward. So that is my word for the day. For the
All
night,
right, brother.
Well, we want to thank you. I really took away from Mr. Terrell, because I always like to learn something. And, I think all of us need to ask, and everybody around the country, is what we doing for Black people good? Is what you're doing good for our community? Not good for yourself. Is it good for the whole community? Because this lack of collective thought is robbing our entire race.
That's right. That's right, brother.
Yes.
I agree.
Thank you so much for this and joining Rolling Out News. We'll see you next week, same time, same place, 7 p.m. Peace and blessings and much protection over you as you're moving through this moment. We'll be with you the entire journey. We will not forget about you here at Rolling Out. Peace.
Thank you.
Peace.